Got a question for you. You're in space on an asteroid. It's a complete mess out there. What's the best way to get around? Well, here's an idea that I think's got legs.
Space hopper.
No, not that kind of space hopper.
Boing.
Actually, to be honest, yeah, that kind of space hopper.
Boing.
10 students from ETH University in Zurich designed this prototype for extremely low gravity environments, maybe to look for different minerals that are worth mining from asteroids. And it gets from place to place by pronking about like some three-legged space gazelle.
I've seen a few bouncing space robots in my time. You might think it's quite a chaotic way to get about, and certainly if you're on wheels or tracks, that does seem more controllable. But when you think about it, if you're on a really uneven surface, leaping over small boulders, big stones, might be quite sensible. The thing that worries me is what happens if it jumps and then flips itself over or lands on its side or something. But what it does to keep itself stable when it's off the ground is think like a cat.
See, as a feline falls, it frantically flails its fur, well actually its legs, and Space Hopper keeps itself upright during flight by using its limbs in the same way.
Basically, as if you're standing on a small rope, right? And if you're about to fall, you're going to swing your arms to stay upright. That's exactly what it does.
So if you put a cat on the moon and dropped it, it would still be able to right itself, even though there's no air to grip against.
We could try, but I guess it should work.
Yeah, okay, let's not try it. Well, not with the cat. How on earth did you work out what it needs to do to get itself back in the right orientation, regardless of which way up it is?
That's a great question, because for a human, that's really hard to design. So what we used is reinforcement learning, a type of AI basically. So the robot learns that in simulation and figures out what actually works, which motions work to stay upright.
So you, in theory, trained, what, hundreds or thousands of virtual robots, and one of them eventually came out as getting it right, is that right?
Exactly. Nowadays you can simulate like years of experience in just a few minutes on a PC, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Simulating low gravity is hard here on Earth, so to test their control software, the team took Space Hopper on a very special day trip.
You took this on a parabolic flight. You took it on the Vomit Comet.
Exactly.
How was that for you personally? I've never done it. I want to know what it's like.
It's amazing. I can highly recommend it.
Right. Okay.
Luckily for me, it wasn't the Vomit Comet. I was fine. And then experiencing that weightlessness is just an amazing feeling.
Did you have any time to pay attention to the robot, or were you just doing somersaults all the time?
No, I actually had a lot of time on the robot. Just for one small part, I could go and do some somersaults, but otherwise we were just operating the system.
And the system performed very well indeed. And in fact, now the team has parked the asteroid investigation plan and answered a call slightly closer to home. It's been selected by the European Space Agency ESA as a contender to go to the moon. The team suggested kitting out the robot with ground-penetrating radar to probe below the lunar surface and look for lava tubes, subsurface tunnels like the one recently discovered on a rocky plain called Mare Tranquillitatis, and which might one day be used as lunar bases to shelter humans from solar radiation up above. And lo, Space Hopper has become Lunar Leaper.
Our goal would be to land on the surface, outside of where we think that lava tube is, and then approach what is basically a big hole in the ground. It's called a lunar pit. Lunar pits are these steep-walled holes that are collapse features. So this lava tube has collapsed in the center or so. So we would want to approach this hole and look at this entry in a lot of detail. Map it in as much detail as we can, and basically also prepare for follow-up missions that might be much bigger, much more expensive, and potentially lead to some longer-term stations below the surface.
What concerns me is this thing bounces around, and you want to get as close to the entrance to a great big hole as you can. I want to do that really carefully. And what I'm thinking is this thing's going to bound towards it. If you get it wrong, it's just going to disappear over the edge.
I think we can direct it carefully towards the edge. And obviously, in the beginning of the mission, you would be a little bit more conservative. You'd be more careful because you don't want to die right away.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the mission, if you know that you won't survive the night, you might be a little more risky, a little more adventurous, and that's okay.
I'm getting Thelma and Louise vibes here. So that, did they make the jump? Did they make the jump?
Right.
Yeah, that bit about surviving the night. See, like most other moonbots, Lunar Leaper would be solar powered and have just 14 Earth days of sunlight to do its work before the sun went down, temperatures dropped below minus 130 Celsius, and the system died in the cold. It's for these reasons that many teams choose to end space missions by going out in style.
Possibly towards the end of the mission, one could think of jumping into that hole.
No.
Whoa. However, no.
All I'm thinking about now is the death of Lunar Leaper. I've heard that it won't make it through the lunar night. Now I've heard that you could possibly jump it into a pit. It's just over there.
It's just over there.
Listen, it's fine. It's fine.
The ruggedly beautiful and windswept coast of Scotland. In the 1950s, this remote spot was chosen as the test site for a new technology, fast breeder nuclear reactors capable of producing more fuel than they consumed. The steel sphere is there for a reason. If things went seriously wrong inside, it's designed to contain any radioactive contamination. The plant closed in the 1990s and is in the process of being decommissioned. It's a huge site, nearly 200 separate facilities, over a quarter of which contain a bewildering array of radioactive materials. Dismantling Dounreay is a huge challenge, but it's also become a test bed for new technology. But before we can go inside and see it, we need to dress for the occasion. They've gone to get me a bigger size.
Chris, welcome. This is a Dounreay fast reactor.
Well, would you look at that? Goodness, what a thing.
It's a big metal ball, a containment ball, that was built here way back in the 50s. It's a couple of inches thick of metal, sealed, 10 unit, that's housing a reactor that sits over here.
And the reactor is slowly being taken down.
Slowly decommissioned, yes. We want to put it back to what it was previous to what it was in the 1955.
Doing that will take a long time, but they do have help. You've probably seen these four-legged robots before. Here, with the help of expert operators, Spot has been used to map out areas of the plant and measure radiation levels, information that will be vital when it comes to taking it apart. But for now, Spot's mission is to take me to its owner. There we are, we've got Spot, the Boston Dynamics Spot. Why this robot for this place?
Why this robot? Well, it's very, very common in the field of robotics to say that if a job is dull, dirty or dangerous, send a robot in.
You went into a fuel cell that hadn't been explored for 25 years.
We don't have a whole lot of information about this facility before we go in. It's like going into another world in terms of then having to explore that for the first time. So you take your first tentative steps in there as a robot enters this completely unilluminated but highly complex environment. We're able to start building up this image of where the radiation is. So then at the end of it, we can produce a 3D model that then gives the engineers just this amazing data set that informs how they're going to decommission this whole facility.
And it's interesting, Spot is wearing protective clothing like we're wearing protective clothing. You see that on the film and you see it here.
That's right, yeah. So Spot is currently in our contamination control suit. When Spot has been put to work, has been used for, it was a period of 5 days, multiple deployments. At the end of that, we can then clean the suit, we can remove the suit, and then Spot is then totally safe to then come away from site, having got no contamination on it.
Operating an expensive robot inside a nuclear reactor is a bit nerve-wracking, but surprisingly simple.
Okay, all right, so
So-
this is just a regular tablet, isn't it?
Regular
Okay,
tablet,
all right,
yeah.
okay,
So
what
your
do I do?
left stick,
Yeah,
if you move that forwards,
so push up like that.
So you tap and push it upwards, and the robot will move forwards.
Good
It's the
grief.
same for backwards as well. And
Cool.
then if we turn this one to the side,
Which
to,
way?
to the right, it's fine.
Okay,
Over to the right, and then it rotates.
that's amazing. Good dog.
They're proving very useful, and they're very cute. But the decommissioning and cleanup at Dounreay is a huge task.
I've got 3 nuclear reactor plants from the very dawn of the nuclear age. I've got a whole reprocessing plant for taking the fuel and dissolving it and reprocessing it and dealing with the waste. I've got waste storage facilities. I have to transport the waste. So we have an awful lot of infrastructure that comes in lots of bits and pieces.
Decommissioning everything on the site will take decades, and it's been estimated it will be 300 years before the land is safe for reuse.
Well, that's for the site is completely clear, the intermediate level waste has gone to long-term repository. We think we'll have this place down 40, 50 years is our latest estimate, but there's huge variability to that. Nobody's ever done this. You know, I'm projecting things forward, and we know how fast technology is developing. So we're really excited that the technology can help us.
We've shown the benefit that these robotics can bring. I think that even if we look into the very immediate future, that it is absolutely credible within highly technical industries that we'll have robots walking around autonomously, carrying out their missions, and people will see them just as business as usual.
Well, it's been a fascinating visit. When this place was built, it was pioneering nuclear technology, and now new technology is being used to help with the decommissioning and the cleanup.
It's time to leave.
Measuring.
But before I go, I have to make sure I don't take anything radioactive with me.
Monitoring complete. Please leave.
All clear. Spotless, you might say.